Warm welcome to all for today's webinar that is aligning customer experience with expectations. Today, I have with us a very expert trainer, Alan Power, joining in all the way from UK. He has been with Informa for over 20 years as of now, and he is one of our expert trainers in customer experience, leadership, and business operations. So, for any questions that you may have today, I request you all to please type in your questions in the Q&A box or the chat box. And at the end of the webinar, we will be taking the questions, and Mr. Alan Power will be answering those questions. So, I hope you enjoyed today's webinar, and I'll be handing over to Alan Power now. Over to you, Alan.
Thank you. Before I move on, what I'd like to do is tell you a little bit about me, where my background is and what you can expect from being on a course with me. But first of all, I would let you know that I spent 34 years in the UK finance sector. Most of that time I was working in learning and development. So I was running training centers and heading up training teams and so on. I had a very interesting experience in the late 1980s, largely because I had been running training courses on things like Lean and Six Sigma, which were actually new in the 80s, new to the United Kingdom in the 80s. But I was running courses on them, and the chief executive of the bank decided he wanted to set up a new mortgage company, and he wanted that company to be run using the principles of Lean and Six Sigma. There were not many people who knew anything about Lean and Six Sigma in the bank or even in the United Kingdom. So it was virtually by default, I guess, that I was given the job. So I set the company up in 1989, and I was general manager of the company for 8 years. During that time, we delivered some rather impressive results. So within our first year, we delivered 127% improvement in productivity, which was 3 times the number that I was targeted to achieve. We delivered 98% customer satisfaction and 97% employee satisfaction. Those are 2 high numbers. We based those numbers on research. Every time a customer borrowed money from us and moved into their new house, we sent them a survey, 100% of those customers asking about their level of satisfaction, and 98% actually responded with either very satisfied or satisfied. Similarly, with employee satisfaction, we used to do a monthly satisfaction questionnaire, which we sent to 100% of employees, about 500 employees. And we had 97% of employees actually, towards the end of my period there, were expressing a high level of satisfaction, either very satisfied or satisfied. We also won a Business Excellence Award. We were based in the west of Scotland, North UK, and Scotland had its Business Excellence Award, the Quality Scotland Award for Business Excellence, which we managed to win in 2000 and I've almost forgot, 2006. Sorry, 1996. Just one other thing that is relevant is that our customer satisfaction surveys were done based on a particular model, and I was asked to set up a program for the University of Leicester using that model for a master's degree program. I set that up for the University of Leicester in 2006, and I ran that for 4 years before moving on to do something else. And this course that I run, measuring, monitoring, and improving customer service, customer experience, is based on that particular master's degree course. And then finally, I left corporate life, UK banking sector, in 2003, just to set up my own consultancy and training operation. Let me give you a quick insight into sort of things that we're going to cover. My objective, it's pretty obvious objective. I don't shy away from telling you that obviously my objective is to try and encourage you to attend my training course on measuring, monitoring, and improving customer experience. So if at the end of this half an hour session, I've encouraged you to sign up, then I'll achieve my objective. How am I going to do that? What's the process? Well, what I'm going to do is, first of all, give you a little bit of an incentive to attend and to put some focus on improving customer experience. And then I'm going to step you through the program and tell you the sorts of things that we will be covering in the course. The timing of this seminar is 30 minutes or thereabouts. And at the end, I'm going to try and save 50 minutes so I can answer any of your questions that Manali mentioned. If you put them in the Q&A area, then I can pick them up and respond at the end of the 30 minutes. Okay, let me say something about the course. The course, first of all, is designed for senior managers and anybody really who's involved in delivering customer service. It's not particularly relating to the work of customer-facing people. This is more to do with strategies for delivering service excellence rather than the behaviors that are required when engaging with customers. The course will introduce you to strategies, to tools and techniques to improve your customer experience. So we will explore a number of strategies, tools, and techniques, and I'll give you some case studies based on them. And apart from case studies, during the course, which is, by the way, a 4-day course, you'll have presentations from me. We'll do exercises as well as the case studies. The program, the outline program, the detailed program is available on Informa's website. You can find it there, but you can also go to my own website, which you will see annotated here, www.alanempower.com. That website has all my material on it, and it's used to support the training courses I run as well. So if you come on to my course, then you'll have access to all the material, the PowerPoint slides, the case studies, exercises, and a number of other tools and techniques like templates and so on that you can access into the future. So I'm going to start by just running through now each of the sessions on the training course. And the first one we will encounter on the course is the business case. In other words, why should you be concerned with improving customer experience? And I've got some notes here about some of the numbers from research that may be of interest to you. And we will discuss this on the course, but just to give you a little insight, 84% of organizations who claim to be working towards improving customer excellence report an increase in revenue. So working on improving customer service is positive in terms of revenue. After a positive experience, 69% of customers would recommend an organization to friends, family, and colleagues. 75% would return to a company with excellent service. 89% of people begin doing business with a competitor. 89% will begin doing business with a competitor following a poor experience with an organization. And interestingly, highly engaged customers buy 90% more frequently, more often than people who are and customers who are not engaged. They actually spend 60% more per transaction than customers who are not engaged and have 3 times the annual value of other customers who are not engaged. They're astonishing figures. 55% of customers become a customer because of your reputation for service excellence. And interestingly, in terms of complaining customers, 7% of complaining customers, 7 out of 10, which is 70% of complaining customers, will do business with you if you resolve their complaint to their satisfaction. And what you'll find is that these people become more loyal than people who are not satisfied. Interesting figures, and we'll talk about those figures in depth on the course, and we'll explore how they can actually impact on your organization. Our second session involves a model, developing a model, because it's interesting if you've got a framework. It's helpful to have a framework which can help you understand the dimensions of customer experience. By dimensions, I mean, take an example. If you go into a hospital, and having gone into a hospital for some procedure, you come out of the hospital and somebody will say to you, how was it? What was the experience like? Then you're going to reference all your senses. What did you think about it? What did you feel about it? What were the things can you recall about it? You can touch, you can smell, you can taste. All those things will come to mind when talking about your experience. All this type of experience has been researched, and it's been distilled into a model known as the Rater model. So the Rater model says that the dimensions of customer experience are relating to reliability. That's doing it right and doing it quickly. Assurance, giving people confidence that you know what you're doing. It's to do with the tangibles. The tangibles are the physical manifestation of the organization. To do with empathy, how you relate to your customers. And finally, how responsive you are. Do you have the systems to respond quickly and appropriately? And do you have a culture of being able to respond quickly and appropriately amongst your people? We use that Rater model. We explore how we use that Rater model to understand customer experience. And we will use that model to help us to construct methodologies for engaging with the customer to find out what their experience is. Do they find us reliable? Do we give them lots of reassurance? Are our tangibles impressive, and so on? We ask questions about each of those 5 items, 5 aspects, to get better insights into what a customer might feel about us. Our third session extends this particular model by developing another model. The other model is known as the gap analysis model. And what you'll find from dealing with customers is that most organizations engage with customers to help understand the customer experience based on a particular model, in my case, the Rater model. But I don't know whether you've actually used TripAdvisor or not. TripAdvisor is an app that you can access, and the TripAdvisor has postings from people's experience of, for example, hotels or restaurants, or lots of other things as well. But for my purposes, hotels, restaurants. And if you are going on holiday somewhere and you're looking for a hotel and you find one that you think suits your purposes, you may think it a good idea to look on TripAdvisor to look at the experience of people who've been there in the past. And what you'll find is that there'll be people coming up with postings and they will rate the hotel. Excuse me. And what you'll see is people rating the hotel as 5-star, highly recommend, and 4-star, 3-star, 2-star, 1-star. That, no doubt, you will find quite puzzling because it's the same hotel. And people are rating it from being excellent at 5-star all the way down to being very poor and recommending that you don't stay there. That is a puzzle. But the puzzle is resolved when you understand that people's experience or their perception of their experience is related to their expectation. In other words, they have a level of expectation, and if you actually achieve their expectations, then you'll get a high score, a high level of satisfaction. If you fall short of expectation, then you end up with a low level of satisfaction. So it's very, very important from an organization's point of view to understand both. So when engaging with your customers, the first thing you need to do, the first questions you need to ask are based on their expectation. What is it you expect from my customer? And we can use the rater model to do that. What do you expect in terms of reliability? What do you expect in terms of responsiveness and so on? And we can get that down into numbers. So how long do you expect to wait at reception for a check-in? You can put that down to minutes or hours or whatever it is. And we can quote those sorts of metrics to help understand what the customer tolerances are. Then we need to work on making sure that our systems and processes can deliver the expectation. We then do follow-ups asking the question, what was your experience? So we've got two answers. What was your expectation? And what was your experience? And where we have a gap, a negative gap, for example, in other words, the perceived experience was below the expected experience, a negative gap is existing, we need to address some resources to closing that gap. So the gap model shows 5 different gaps. And we will look at the gap model, we'll see how it's constructed based on a lot of research done in the 1990s, academic research. So we'll look at the model, we'll look how it's built, and then we'll look how to deploy that model to help us understand expectations and understand how we're going to bridge the gap between expectation and perceived service. So we will look at the strategies for closing the gaps. Now, as I said, there are 5 gaps. And what we will do, first of all, is start exploring together why these gaps arise in the first place. What is the cause of a gap? And having identified what those causes are, then we'll look at strategies for closing those gaps. And there are lots of them. We'll do lots of exercises, we'll do case studies and so on. The case studies will be real. They'll be about organizations that have worked on improving service excellence and closing the perception gaps from experience from expectation to experience. And then what we'll do is work on how those case studies, that I've mentioned, relate to your organization, what you can learn from them, and how you might be able to deploy some of those lessons in your own organization. We will look at a number of case studies to do with gap closure, but this course is about measuring, monitoring, and improving customer service or the customer experience. Now, one of the gaps, I mentioned there are 5, is known as the standards gap. That is the gap between what the customer experiences and the standards that an organization sets. And often there can be a gap. There can be a gap for all sorts of reasons, which we don't have to explore. We don't have time to explore here. But what we'll need to do is understand the reasons for the quality gap. And one of the tools we'll use is a statistical tool. You may have heard of Six Sigma. Well, one of the key tools in the methodology known as Six Sigma is called statistical process control. And the case study that I'm going to introduce you to on this course is a case study based on the company that I set up, the mortgage company that I set up in 1989. When setting up the organization in 1989, we set a standard to respond to a customer who was applying for a mortgage in 5 days. And rather rapidly, we discovered that we couldn't do it. Although we thought we had systems and technology to do it in 5 days, rather rapidly, we discovered we couldn't do it. The only way of understanding why we couldn't do it was to gather data. So we needed to gather performance data, find out, for example, how long it was taking for each of the maybe 1,000 applications we're receiving in a week, find out how long each one took, identifying those that took more than 5 days, understanding why they took more than 5 days, and then exploring what we could do to reduce that time from whatever it was above 5 days down to 5 days. And we spent several weeks identifying that, gathering the data and identifying the reasons for lack of performance or underperforming. And then we spent several months working on improving the performance of the processes that we ran. And not only did we get the turnaround time down to 5 days, once we'd got it down to 5 days, we started asking questions. Can we get it down, about how we can get it down maybe to 4 days or 3 days? And eventually, within about 6 months, we managed to get it down to 1 day. In other words, somebody who sent an application in for a loan today would have their offer letter sent out later on today. I'll show you the statistical tools. We have an exercise on this case study, and you'll have a hands-on experience of setting up one of these tools that will help you improve your customer-facing processes. Session 6 is about complaints management. Now, I'm going to spend a little bit of time on complaints management during the course, because it's my experience that lots of organizations don't handle complaints very well. My personal experience is that, I very often get into situations where I'm dissatisfied with something that a customer has done, a service or a product or whatever, and I want to engage with the organization to complain, to find that it is extremely difficult. It's difficult to find, for example, an organization's address. You can find a website, but you can't find a telephone number to call somebody on, and you can't find an address to write in with a complaint. In other words, a lot of organizations hide when customers want to complain. Why are they doing that? Well, I think there's lots of potential reasons. People don't like receiving complaints. Some people think that a complaint is an affront. In other words, how dare you complain about my organization? We've been trying really hard to give you a good service or produce a good product for you. And so they take that as almost an insult, and they don't want to hear it. Now, I believe that's a serious mistake. and I'll explain why I think that during the training course. But primarily, I believe a complaint is a piece of feedback. Don't call it a complaint, call it customer feedback. It's feedback from a customer who's taken time to tell you where your organization is failing. That's a gem, right? It's a gift. If you ignore that gift, you're ignoring an opportunity to improve. Now, an opportunity to improve is very precious. If you've got customers who are complaining, no doubt their poor experience for which they're complaining about is a poor experience for other people. So not only are you getting an opportunity to improve something for a complaining customer, potentially you're improving it for all customers. So I've got a case study. I've got a case study of an organization that I think that I worked with actually as a consultant. It's a bank in the United Kingdom. And that bank set up a complaints handling strategy, which actually, strangely as it may seem, welcomed complaints. Welcomed complaints because they had a culture to suggest that a complaint was a gift. So they took that in as a chance to improve their processes. They had an interesting approach, which I'll explain in some detail, but essentially a really important part of their complaints handling strategy was that the person who received the complaint from the customer, whether it was a cashier in a branch or whether it was somebody in on a telephone in a call center, whoever received the complaint from the customer was required to handle that complaint. They were not allowed to hand off. They were not allowed to say, I'll send it to the complaints department. They didn't have a complaints department. The person who received the complaint owned it and had to resolve it to the customer's satisfaction. And they were empowered to do that to a level where they were empowered to pay the customer compensation for anything they lost as a consequence of maladministration or process errors or whatever. But I'll tell you more about that. And maybe if you don't have a complaints strategy in your organization, this could be something that you might be able to learn from. Okay, so that's the outline of the 4-day course. Lots of activity, lots of case studies, exercises, obviously some speaking from me. That's I think expected. There has to be some input from me, but it's one of those courses that you'll experience a lot of hands-on. But that's all I want to say for now. What I want to do is to then move into the any questions area. So if you've got any questions and you put them in Q&A, in fact, I've seen there are 2 in chat box. Oh, actually, these 2 are comments in chat box from Manali with a warm welcome. I'll just move into the Q&A to see if there are any questions in here. Nobody's put any questions.
Alan will give them 1 minute to type in their questions.
I will do, yes. In the chat box or in the Q&A section.
Yep. Alan, I think we have got a question in Q&A box.
It's Manal Al-Azmi is
Yeah.
asking, did I need butter complain? Sorry, I'm not 100% certain what that means. I'll attempt to answer it, but I'm not sure I'm answering the question. I think it might be asking about whether we need a strategy for handling complaints. The answer is yes, you do. Complaints, as I mentioned, are an important part of the improvement strategy. So if you have an improvement strategy in your organization, and all organizations should have an improvement strategy, what you'll find is customer feedback will help you to improve. So you need a strategy for doing that. And if you know anything about strategy planning, most organizations will have a strategic theme about continuous improvement or something similar. And in a continuous improvement strategy, you will have a complaints management strategy, learning from complaints. I hope that answers the question. If it doesn't, Manal, you may like to come back to me. I've got a question from Nafi Al-Sayed. For these 4 days, we'll be at the same. Yes, it's the same. I think the question is it 1 week during? Yeah, it is a 1 week training course. In fact, I've got the date of the next course on my next slide. So when I've finished answering the questions, I'll bring that up and show you when it is. It's 4 consecutive days, and it's recommencing the 30th of September. So in about 6 weeks' time. The course is presented in Dubai face-to-face, but also it's presented using what's known as HiFlex. So you can actually attend the course online as well as attending face-to-face. Okay, we've got another question from somebody who hasn't provided their name, which is fine. How will you identify if the complaint is due to unsatisfied employee, which leads to customer complaint? Okay, that's a good question. Yeah. The first comment I will make is that my understanding is that the customer complaint potentially relates to an employee. They're not happy with an employee's service. That's a difficult one. It's a difficult one because the service sector is very difficult to monitor, because every time anybody delivers a service, it's unique. It's never been done before, never be done again. So it's a unique service. So managing a customer engagement with employees is very, very difficult. You need to have methodologies for doing that. But the second point I would make is it's really important that you don't have employees delivering poor service. I know that's a bit trite for me to say this, but you need to find ways of training your employees to deliver excellent service. You need to get them motivated to ensure that your organization has only one mission. It's to get customers and to keep them. And they need to understand that anything that actually puts a customer off and chases them off to the competitor is a serious problem for your organization. So first of all, a high level of employee training. Also, you need to be very careful about the employees that you recruit who are going to be working in customer-facing processes. Now, I had a particular way of recruiting employees, which is very different to the way most organizations. I had potential employees come to my organization for 2 hours. They spend 2 hours with us so that we could get to know them before we ever recruited anybody. And I'll explain what we did in that 2 hours to you when you come on the course. Okay. I hope that helps on if it's an maybe a dysfunctional employee. You need to find them and get rid of them, I guess. Okay, so that seems to have solved both questions because uh, the person whose name I don't have has said thank you. The Nafi who was asking about the course has also said thank you. So I think I've probably answered the questions. Any more questions? Any in the chat box? No, can't see any. Manoli, do you see any more?
Can you? Okay, so I don't see anymore.
Okay, well,
Have we answered the question of fake reviews?
say again.
We have a question from Dimitri. It's when employees are receiving negative reviews and getting some kind of rewards for forwarding the info to the top management. How
Oh,
to avoid fake reviews?
yeah, Dimitri, yes, I can see that one. When employees are receiving negative news and getting some kind of rewards for forwarding the info to top management, how to avoid fake reviews and overabuse of this review collection system. This question goes straight to my heart. I seriously disagree with providing people with rewards. Giving people money to do something is a form of bribery. People get paid a salary. You need to have proper systems, you need to have proper leadership, and you don't need to give people additional things for doing things that they should be doing anyway. I've worked in an environment where we had things in a banking environment where we had things like sales commission and other incentive schemes, and the number of dysfunctional behavior that generated was legion. And on my course, I will tell you some stories and I'll talk to you about why it is that I don't believe in rewards. The people who worked for me, 500 employees, got a salary, a very good salary, but they never got anything else. No incentives, no commissions, no bonuses, nothing like that at all. Come on my course, Dimitri, and we'll have a conversation about it.
I think we also have one more question, Alan. The last question, I think, from Faraz Halawi. How do you think we can deal with a company if you keep raising complaints from clients, but no serious action is taken?
Okay, I can't see this question.
That's in Q&A box.
Okay, I'm just going there. How do you think we can deal with a company if you keep raising complaints from clients, but no serious action is taken? Well, I have to say, if you don't take action from feedback that customers are giving you, then there's no point in getting the feedback. I mean, it's just a complete waste of your time. It's a complete waste of the customer's time, and it generates an expectation from the customer that you're going to take action. And if you don't, probably they're going to be more than dissatisfied. What they're going to be, and this is an important issue, they're going to end up being disloyal. Disloyal customers are the type of customer that will actually rubbish your organization. They'll tell people, they have a dinner party on Saturday night, and they'll tell people all about the complaint they had with your customer and how you didn't deal with it. That is seriously damaging to your organization. And we'll talk about that on the course as well. Okay, have we got everybody now?
Yes, I think that's all that we have.
Yeah, okay, I'll close that down. And what I'll do now, okay, Dimitri says, okay, thanks. I feel for you, Dimitri. I understand your problems. Right, the last thing I want to do, ladies and gentlemen, is to put the information about the date of the next course. So the next course is in Dubai on the 30th of September, 4 days, Monday to Thursday. As I mentioned, it's in HighFlex, so you can attend online or you can attend face-to-face. If you want further information, you can send an email to Informa, and it's Middle East Inquiries, ME Inquiries at informa.com, or WhatsApp. And the WhatsApp number you can see is a Dubai number, +971 551 760524. And please also remember that you have details of my website, alanmpower.com, where you can find more information about the program. You can get the program outlined there as well. Okay, well, may I say thank you for your attendance. I really look forward to seeing some of you on the course at the end of September. In the meantime, best of luck, stay safe, and stay healthy. Goodbye.
What if you and your team can be even more informed, competitive, accomplished, even more successful, with programs designed to inspire and empower everyone to become even more? Introducing Informa Connect Academy. With hundreds of global, digital, and in-person training courses led by world-renowned industry experts, reimagining learning experiences for even more unlocked potential. Informa Connect Academy, available at informaconnect.com/academy.